Hello people, today I've got another video and today I've got a special guest with me, Duncan Tappy, and my other mates from the Drive to Survive review series 3. So nice to have you back, boys, and cheers for coming on, Duncan. Do you want to introduce yourself for those of you who don't know you yet?
Yeah, so those of you who don't know me, my name's Duncan Tappy. I've been lucky enough to be a racing driver for longer than 20 years now, show my age. So yeah, living the dream a little bit, and very fortunate to be able to live the life that I'm living.
Yes. Do you want to give us a quick introduction into how you got into racing?
Yeah, well, it is the same as most drivers these days. It was karting, and one of my school friends was racing in a local kart championship, just in rental karts. But quite a few people started in that went on to make a career at this place. So yeah, started out in karting. I won a Southern British Championship championship, and then it moved on to the big boy stuff of British Championships and European Championship karting. And there was a slippery slope. I was very addicted. Got the bug straight away, and somehow, with my dad just being a one-man band heating engineer, somehow we managed to survive the monetary side of things, because as you all know, it's very money driven, not particularly or not just about talent, but somehow I managed to pull together some funds and managed to perform at the right time, which gave me a few breaks.
Yeah, I mean, how difficult was it for you to convince sponsors?
That's the hardest bit. The driving bit is the easy bit. That's the bit that comes naturally to us drivers. What doesn't is putting proposals together, going to businesses, going to individuals, networking. That's the bit that can really take its toll. But I had some help along the way from a number of guys that believed in me. One of the guys now that I still work with now, he's actually Lando Norris's manager, Mark Berman. He and I worked together in karting, and he put a lot of faith in me. He managed to find a sponsor, which then put me on the European map of karting. Okay. And then that got me noticed a little bit in Formula Ford, where Jamin Racing and a guy called Andy at the team managed to pull together some funds for me to compete there. And then that was the year that really launched my career, because I came second in the Formula Ford Championship, the UK Championship.
Yep.
I won 10 out of the 20 races, but because every round counted, I had 2 DNFs. So it meant that I dropped back to second in the championship. Whereas any other championship these days, you drop your worst round. So I would have won it. But then I won the Formula Ford Festival, which was a pretty big deal then.
The brand tax, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, that then got a few people talking, and I got nominated for the Autosport Young Driver of the Year.
Yes.
And then made the step into Formula Renault, where again I managed to, with the help of a couple of guys, managed to secure some sponsorship to do the British Championship, which I managed to go on and win as well. So it was, I mean,
that's pretty impressive. That is. I mean, yeah, I would love to be in a race car, but obviously I can't drive because I'm in a wheelchair. But one day I would love to sort of do something connected with Sky and Formula One. I mean, that would be my ultimate dream. So if you've got any contacts, Just,
Well, I mean, it's tough times right now with everything that's going on, but I do quite a lot of work with McLaren Automotive, and they have a lot of track days and a lot of events around the world where people are paying and to be in cars and whatever else they do, VIP laps and things like that. So who knows, when it all kicks off again, we'll see if we can get you involved somehow.
Yeah, because how do you sort of stay sharp with you not driving so much, like in the pandemic at the minute?
Well, I'm a little bit old school and also got a family, so I haven't got time to sit and spend hours on a sim. But in terms of keeping sharp, it's just physically for me. I spend a lot of time on my road bike and training. I've set a little home gym up here, so I kind of toyed with the idea of getting a home sim, but I would have just had no time for the kids, no time for anything. So I spend enough time in the gym or on the bike, let alone spending the early hours in the morning racing my mates online.
So, any more questions, boys?
I've got one for you there, Duncan. Just to bring you back, you sort of said that talent is, it gets you so far, sort of. Well, obviously, as you said, like getting into racing is a very sort of money-driven business. How far would you say that talent would take you alone?
You could be the best driver in the world, but
without the recognition, I guess.
Yeah, it's just to put some figures in your head. Even to get into a Formula 3 car is costing 20-30 grand a weekend. So you've got to have that kind of money sitting around to be able to prove yourself. So it's not, I'm a big golfer. I love my golf, and you could turn up at a golf tournament, paid your £100 entry, and you've got your bats, you've got your bag, and you can go out, and if you play well, then you're going to win the prize money and progress on.
Yeah,
you could have £500,000 to go and do Formula 3 or plus these days, and you could win it, and there's no guarantee you're going to progress. So there are some schemes out there. There are people that have got there purely on talent, but they've also had the funding behind them. Lewis being one of them. There's a lot of guys that have managed to have Red Bull behind them, Mercedes, Racing Sets Foundation, which was the UK side of things. James Collado, personal family money, didn't have any, but he had one of the richest guys in the UK behind him paying. These teams, that they're a business. They need to pay the guys. The cars have got between 4 and 10 people on them. They're all on a salary, or some weekend warriors coming in. They all need to be paid. Whereas you don't get that at a golf course, do you?
Yeah, fair enough.
So
thank you very much.
Unfortunately, it's a huge percentage down to money.
Yeah,
fair enough. Yeah.
And do you think that's obviously bad? And do you think that's putting a lot of kids off actually trying to get into motorsport?
Hang on, my kids have just turned up. What are you doing here?
Nice.
Couldn't make it up, could you?
No.
Why? Take them downstairs. Go.
It's because you're mentioning kids, Raz.
Honestly, I don't know how the wife has let them come up here. But you can edit that bit out.
Yeah.
I might just
the magic of TV.
I might just leave that in just for the fun of it. But coming back to the question, do you think actually the fact that Formula, motorsport is so money driven, do you think it puts a lot of kids off actually trying to get into the sport?
I don't know whether it would put kids off, but I mean, for instance, me and my boys, George, my eldest, he's car mad, you know, and I could see that potentially he'd have a good feel for it, even when he's just riding his bike or on his scooter or, you know, little motorized cars. I think he'll have a good feel for it.
Yeah.
But in some ways, I think it's cruel. You know, I don't know whether it's possible to make a career out of it the way that I have these days.
Yeah.
However, it does open doors. There are other things you can do within the industry to still earn a decent living. So I don't think kids would think about it, but
You know, because I guess you do a lot of instructing as well, and off the other side of racing, like instructing people, and do you do a lot of TV work as well, don't you?
well, I used to do quite a bit of commentary. Haven't done that so much recently. About a year or so ago, I was still doing Formula E commentary, and bits and bobs. But yeah, mainly it's, you know, a lot of racing drivers will be doing their private coaching, whether it's with a gent driver, an amateur driver in sports cars, or the junior drivers wanting coaching in their single seaters. So yeah, there are opportunities. Then you go down. You know, there are people that have gone down the management route, people that have gone down, or the management of drivers. I mean, then you've got people that have started up their own race teams because of people they've met. You know, that they could, you know, start up their own team. So yeah, I mean, you know, you're obviously you're mixing with people that are pretty well connected themselves, so it can open doors.
Yeah, and what's your biggest achievement to date? Like, you've raced in Le Mans, haven't you?
Yeah, I raced at Le Mans. Unfortunately, I've not done the 24 hours yet. I've raced and won the support race, which is the Road to Le Mans race. I've raced there 4 times and been on the podium 3 and won. So
that's good going, that is.
Yeah, got a pretty good record there. I think my biggest achievement was probably the Formula 4 Festival or the Renault Championship. But then at the same time, I raced with my very good friend now, Michael Benham, for a number of years. I met him on a track day. He wanted to go racing, and then I was paired up with him. And to bring him along from a very good track day driver to a top gent amateur driver I had a real sense of achievement for that. And to see some of the races that he drove was something I was very, very proud of too. We should have won our last season in Le Mans Cup together, but there was a bit of an incident on the last race which didn't quite go our way. But yeah, pretty proud of that as well.
So how do you like deal with the fact when a race hasn't gone so well? Do you actually think about it a lot, or do you just brush it off and think about the next one?
In the past, I would say I've been known as quite a safe pair of hands. I used to race in a championship for 3 years called Super League Formula, which was the cars which had football clubs associated with them. And they were great, you know, ex-champ car tubs, V12, 750 horsepower, load of ex-F1 boys were in it. And I used to get drafted in. They knew I had no money, knew I didn't want paying to do it. It was just me trying to keep my name in the frame whilst there was nothing else around. And I'd hop in and filled the space last minute, or, you know, would miss FP1 and 2 and jump in for qualifying. And they always knew that I was a safe pair of hands. So there hasn't been many occasions, thankfully, where I've had a run of bad luck, particularly. But that last round of Le Mans Cup in 19, that was a hard one for me to swallow, because that was my mistake. I basically crashed with our championship contender, and there was a bit of a lack of communication over the radio as to where we were going to end up. and I went for a move and it didn't work out, and we ended up getting a drive-through penalty and we lost, and they carried on and they ended up winning the championship. So, but that one was tough because I guess any other time where I've had incidents, it's been in my single seater career, and it's just me, So if I muck up, then it was, it's only affected me. But I'm racing with Mike, and this was, the biggest thing that he had ever even dreamt of, being able to compete for a championship, let alone, like so close to winning it.
He was funding the team, wasn't he, as well?
Well, yeah. It's a very expensive sport, and I put together a team along with, Graham at Lannon Racing. I've got Lewis Pinto along, who was my engineer from my data engineer in the Bentley days, and got them all together. It was working brilliantly. It just didn't quite have the fairy tale ending that we all wanted. So yeah, that one took me a while to get over, but I think I felt almost guilty that I didn't bring it home for them.
So you could almost be seen as being the Nico Hülkenberg of Formula One because of the super sub role.
Wondering where that was going there.
Yes.
He's out of a drive now.
Because he was doing excellent money. How good of a job do you think, from a racing driver's point of view, did he do? Because it must have been absolutely, hard for him to jump into a car without any preparation.
I think he did an outstanding job, but I wouldn't expect anything less from him. When you look at anything he's ever done, he's absolutely kicked ass. He's a special driver, and I don't think he quite got the breaks, the recognition that he should have got. The guy was testing through the winter GT cars, probably hadn't been to the gym because he thought, what's the point? And then he gets chucked in at Silverstone, wasn't it, the first time?
Yes.
It's like one of the highest downforce circuits you can get, and apparently his neck was gone after like the first session. So the fact that he managed to carry on and do what he did, and at the first race maybe he didn't start, did he?
There's a bit of an issue with the car.
Yeah. So but then he still did a mega job the next time round. But I think that the biggest thing there, obviously lack of miles, but lack of miles means that you're not then car fit, and those things are just incredibly physical to drive. So I think
look at George Russell getting into Lewis's car at the at Bahrain there. Or Sakir, sorry. No, Bahrain, yeah. No, Sakir. Sorry. No, he had to wear boots that were 2 sizes too small for him, and his head's poking out the car, sort of thing. But yeah, obviously, like you say, they're kind of fit tested for the specific driver. So obviously, like we say, getting Nico into a car, 2 different cars set up for 2 different drivers that are both quite a lot shorter than him as well, I think. But yeah.
No, he did an incredible job.
Matt, do you want to ask anything?
Yeah, I've got a question. So, when's the biggest time where you've been racing? I know you've raced with a lot of different drivers.
Yeah.
Where you've actually felt starstruck on the racetrack?
Starstruck.
So, like everyone's going on about recently at the race where a lot of the younger lads are racing with the likes of Fernando Alonso, things like that. And they're, where have you ever encountered that, where you've had something like maybe have you ever raced against one of your heroes or anything like that?
Super League, there was a lot of guys that had, like Pitsonia, Antonio Pitsonia was, on the grid. Robert Dorn was on the grid. Sebastian Bourdais was on the grid. These guys that I guess Bourdais was quite a big deal at the time. He won all these champ car races and IndyCar, or the champ car I think at the time. He comes back and raced in that. But I don't think I've ever been starstruck and thought, oh my god, I'm racing. I'll tell you what, it was pretty cool racing against Valentino Rossi.
Oh, okay.
How the hell?
I mean, that's a pretty big name in the world of racing.
He came and did a Blancpain race in 2012 at Monza, and I had a bit of a ding dong with him for half a lap, and I thought this is quite cool. I won't forget. I won't forget that. I think on a slightly different note, the one guy which I thought was, and it's the closest I've ever been to someone where I thought, oh my God, he is impressive, and that was Grosjean. He was my teammate in 2010 when we did AutoGP. He had just been kicked out of F1 at that time. I think he lost his seat for whatever reason, so he missed the first round. And he turned up at Spa, having never driven the car, and was like a second quicker than us or something stupid, like 8/10 quicker than anyone. And we were like, wow. And he was a bit of a knob to start with as well. We were like, who is this? I thought, if this is how all F1 drivers are, then that they can do one. But I kind of saw it as an opportunity to try and up my game. You know, I had all of his data there to look at. I could see everything he was doing. And I felt as if I worked the best within the team to get as close as I could to him. Okay. And I think I'm qualifying second by 10th and a half, 2 tenths. So it was we had a good year. I had a DNF in one race, but finished third in the championship. He absolutely pissed it. But yeah, I think from that point, I wouldn't say starstruck, but I was like, wow, he's impressive. And then to see all the negative stuff about him in F1, obviously he didn't help himself a lot when he was, you know, shunting on safety car laps and whatever else.
No. Marcus Ericsson hit him.
Ericsson. Yeah.
He absolutely hit him. He absolutely hit him.
Yeah. So yeah, he was seriously impressive.
So obviously you've seen the major crash he had in the last season of the, you know, in the last race of the season in 2020. I personally thought that he wasn't going to make it, but as a driver, are you aware of the dangers? Obviously, aren't you? And how do you you put them in the back of your mind, or how do you deal with them?
Yeah, it's weird. I guess we're made differently. As soon as that helmet goes on, you don't really think about it. And you know, things have got so much safer in the last, you know, over many years, you know, since Senna's crash, and yeah, even more so recently. I don't think you don't really think about it. You know, I just mentioned him, but you know, Michael Benham had a huge crash halfway through 2019 in the LMP3 car at Barcelona. Ended up clearing the catch fencing.
Yeah.
You know, it was a huge crash, and yeah, it shook him up. It was a big one, you know, and for an amateur driver, it's even bigger than it would be for a pro, because we just go, oh, well, it's kind of what happens. But yeah, you kind of forget that, crikey, you know, we're doing these kind of speeds, but these things are incredibly safe. But then there's fire. Things can be as safe and as crumple-proof as you like. When there's a fire involved, there's not a lot that you can do. And to see what happened to Roman there was unbelievable.
I mean, I said to you boys, didn't I? I mean, I said to you, didn't I? I said, if he wouldn't have come out of that race, of that car alive, I would have stopped watching Formula One. You know, and I've been watching Formula One from the age of 6. You know what I mean? So it certainly shook me up no end. You know what I mean? So yeah. Safety's come a long way. So any more questions, boys?
Coming back, sorry, Matt. Sort of continuing the point or the question that Matt asked. Not so, you know, sort of looked at who you'd raced with. Who would you say your racing hero was? Not necessarily you raced against, but your idol, if you want.
So I've been asked that question quite a few times. I always thought that Jim Clark was amazing. Like, he was kind of like who I would want to be like in terms of driving, because, you know, he could hop in anything. He was winning touring car races one weekend, F2 races the next, Formula One the next, you know, and he was just cool. He was just chilled. But my era growing up and watching F1 was Damon Hill. So I was always a Damon fan. I had caps and shirts and, you know, everything going through these races. And then he was he was the president of the BRDC for a number of years when I just became a member. And we got talking, and he ended up texting me one day saying, "Do you want to go and play golf?" So you know, I remember finishing the round of golf and rang Dad. I was like, "You have no idea. You don't who I've just played golf with." And he was like, "Who?" I was like, "Damon." He's like, "Damon? Who's Damon?" I was like, "Damon Hill." He's like, "Shut up." So yeah, and they say never meet your heroes, but Damon is just like the nicest guy. It's really cool.
Yeah, because I've got a very nice story from about Damon, actually, because I've obviously I love Formula One, right? And I was doing a lot of swimming and a lot of martial arts, right? And the secretary of my judo club, he was doing vintage car rally sort of thing, and one of the people there was Damon Hill, and he actually got Damon Hill to ring me. So
nice.
I was speaking to Damon Hill for about 20 minutes or something. That was a great experience. So if you're watching, Damon,
Hi.
you're more than welcome to come on the Unplanned Formula 1 chat. I don't know whether we can make it happen, but one can always dream. But anyway, who do you think is the best? Like, who do you think is the best driver out of Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher?
Just you get the nice easy questions here, Duncan.
Yeah. I'll answer it quickly. I think Lewis, he, to me, has everything. And I think his feel is like nothing else. You know, he has the ability to look after tires. You know, we never really saw that with Michael in his era. There was no such thing as having to save tires. You know, they're just bolted on new Bridgestones every time, and he was impressive, seriously impressive. Both in similar dominant cars, but yeah, you never really see Lewis lose his temper. You always see him outrace most people. And from what I hear from behind closed doors, he's the hardest working driver on the grid. He's first in the morning, last out at night. You know, I think he ticks all the boxes.
Yep. So, anything to add, boys?
Yeah.
I think Matt had a question.
Yeah. So, what are you up to this year? How's it going?
I am racing in European Le Mans Series with United Autosports. So that's Richard Dean and Zach Brown's team.
Yes.
We are 2 weeks away from the first round in Barcelona, and we we decided, well, Jim Maguire, who I raced with, decided that the best winter program in terms of testing would be to do the Asian Le Mans series. So we actually went and raced and had a very condensed schedule, 2 double headers, back-to-back weekends in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and it was brilliant. We had 3 second in the championship. I think we're well prepared for the season ahead. So yeah, European Le Mans series in LMP3.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, and you know, you've just mentioned that it's obviously Zach Brown's team, yeah?
Yeah.
How do you feel when you know that you're racing for somebody that is obviously the man in Formula One as well?
Well, he obviously, you know, he's the CEO of McLaren F1, you know, and I've done a lot of work with McLaren for the last, how many years now? 9 years. But, you know, Richard Dean from United Autosports, I've known him since my Formula 4 days. I've known the crowd for an awful long time, and, you know, they're great guys. And, you know, Richard is really, really good friends with Zach. And I've actually played golf a few times with Zach as well. So I think that eased the kind of nervousness around, you know, a boss of his ilk. He's just a really funny, normal guy that is just absolutely smashing it right now.
Yeah. So another person I would love to chat with. So if you were watching this, Zach, you're more than welcome to chat with me, even though I'm wearing a Williams top.
He'll let you off. Got the same.
I mean, I have actually tried to get hold of some McLaren merch, but I can't seem to find any at the minute. But anyway, I would like to know your memories of the great Murray Walker.
Yeah, well, what a legend he is, was, unfortunately. I mean, he was the voice of Formula One, you know, voice of motorsport. You know, I grew up, well, I watched every part of motorsport, you know, and British touring cars was part of that as well. And hearing his voice doing that was everything. You know, he can make anything sound exciting. But I think the point when I thought, man, this guy is just motorsport mad and is just a nice, really nice man. I was working at Thruxton just on a school day. So I was in a Lotus Exige, and he lived quite locally to Thruxton. So he used to pop over, and a lot of the guys knew him. It was the first time I met him. And so I think that right. I said, hi, Murray, I'm Duncan Tappy, nice to meet you. He's like, oh, yeah, brilliant year last year in Formula Renault, well done. And I was just like, what? How does he know about me in a British Championship when he's done everything he's done? So, you know, that's the kind of man he was. He just loved the sport. And it's, yeah, what a guy.
Yeah, I mean, I loved him, you know, I loved him as well. Similar thing, I actually, the same event that Damon Hill was at, Murray was at, but unfortunately, I missed his phone call. So I had, when I was listening to my voicemail, he left me this brilliant voicemail. Unfortunately, I couldn't save it, you know.
Yeah.
But it was so nice, and I still got an autograph from him, personalized autograph from him. You know, hanging on my wall. Yeah, I just loved watching his commentary. But did you ever get close to becoming Formula One driver?
The honest answer is no. Probably not really. After winning the Renault Championship, I managed, along with a lot of hard work from a couple of guys, to secure a sponsor from Dubai. Say 12 months more time to get it done, but we had a 3-year deal. So it was going to be to do World Series by Renault for 2 years, and then it was GP2 then. And so I was spending a lot of time over in Dubai, having dinners and events with these new sponsors of mine. And they were talking silly things. They were like, well, you know, once you do GP2, then, you know, we'll just buy a Formula One team. And I was like, okay, that sounds amazing, but let's just have one step at a time. I haven't even driven the World Series car yet. Let's see. And sure enough, 6 months later, the 2008 recession hit, and they disappeared off the face of the earth, left us with a load of rubbish to clean up after them, and nothing ever progressed. Was it Rich Energy? No, it wasn't. It was
India.
True story.
Was it the Nigerian prince?
The boss of it is now in prison. That's the kind of people that we're mingling.
Oh wow! Okay,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, he's gone to prison for the biggest VAT fraud on mobile phones, and he went there.
Wow.
2013, he went in the end.
Probably got him to thank for the financial crisis.
But I have driven a Formula One. So I was in Abu Dhabi. I was coaching Mike Benham. He was doing the Abu Dhabi 12 hours. And my friend Stuart Hall, who does a lot of work with a guy that collects a lot of cars, and he said, I was lying in because everything over there, all the races happen in the evening and whatever else in Abu Dhabi. So I think I got a call at about 9 a.m. He said, Dunk, where are you? I said, I've just woken up, mate. I'm just going to go for breakfast. He was like, do you want to drive a Formula One car? I was like, let me think. Yes. So I don't know. I don't often do it, but a few of the old guys around the planet say, you always bring your crash helmet with you. You never know what can happen. And I to that event, I brought my crash helmet with me because, you know, things, you never know what happened in endurance races. 3 people per car, sometimes 4. One of them only have to fall over, hurt themselves, or one of them's ill and you're in. It wasn't quite that, but I managed to drive a 96 Benetton, Gerhard Berger Benetton, which was quite cool. It was on Monaco gear ratios around Abu Dhabi, so I was in 6th gear with about another kilometre to go down the back straight. But that picture is I've still got that framed in the house.
So what does it feel like to drive a Formula One car?
Well, I guess in that it wasn't a true representation because of the gear ratios. It was on tyres that probably hadn't been off the car in those 20 years. So it wasn't the best opportunity to push. But it was still amazing. You know, it was very, very cool. But I'm still hoping, and if he watches this and listens to this, he knows I fit in it now. But Mikey, who I've mentioned a few times now, he owns a Lewis Hamilton 2007 McLaren that actually finished second at Spa. And you remember when Alonso and Hamilton had the little thing in the pit lane when Alonso blocked Hamilton in?
Yeah.
That car. And he's always said, oh yeah, you can have a go, you can have a go. Obviously it's extortionate money anytime that thing turns a wheel. But I think he didn't think I'd fit in it. And last year I lost a lot of weight, and at his house I sat in it and fitted in Lewis's seat. So one day, hopefully that'll be my next one experience.
Okay.
Nice.
Any more questions, boys?
Yeah, I've got a question. So you do driver coaching, don't you? Oh,
yeah.
We've lost Tom. So, who tell us a bit about that. Tell us a bit about your driver coaching and what sort, if you're allowed to say who you coach and what you do. What you've got any cool stories?
Stories, I'm sure there are many, but I mean, it's something that I've done ever since my karting days. Again, always looking to, I could never sit back and not earn money. I always needed to earn money to pay my way, to be living and whatever else. So even in karting, once I did pretty well, I would then hang around the year after to try and help out the next people along and whatever else. And somehow I managed to get employed to do these things. So yeah, I've helped out a number of guys, more in cars than karts. So to list a few, Will Stevens, he got to Formula One with and then helped out George Russell for a couple of races, James Collado for a couple of races, and then most notably from recent F1 grid is Lando. I helped out Lando for about 3 years, helped make his transition from karts to cars. So I helped him in Junior Ginetta and then into his single-seater stuff. So for a couple of years. And I'm now still working with that management group that look after Lando, and they've got a number of other drivers under their fold. I'm looking after a Barbadian kid now called Zane Maloney. He won the F4 championship a couple of years ago, and now he's doing Formula Regional by Alpine.
So talking of Lando, do you think, obviously I kind of think I know the answer, but do you think he can be, how far do you think he can go?
Yeah, you've predicted the answer correctly. I think he can go all the way. I think the way that you saw him drive in Bahrain was more like the Lando that I know. I think the first couple of years it's been impressive, but he was young, and there's a lot to take in. There's not many people that can jump straight into Formula One and do what Max Verstappen and people like that have done. But I really do think Lando is special, and when you're up against someone like Daniel Ricciardo, you have to be pretty special because he is. And I hope that things carry on the way they did in Bahrain, and Lando can kick some ass.
And now, I want to ask you something about George Russell. I was pretty damn impressed by that when he got the call up from Mercedes, to jump into Lewis's car. We touched on the fact that he had to drive with boots that was too small for him. Halfway out the, not literally, but halfway out the cockpit, but he looked pretty uncomfortable. So how much of a good job do you think he did, considering that, and how good can he be if he, when he gets that drive, and how good do you reckon he can be once they all make it fit for him?
Well, he did an absolutely outstanding job, didn't he? Any of us that know him and know the crowds that look after him, I don't think anyone quite thought that he would be as fast he was. Everyone knows that George is very, very, very good. He's won everything he's done, and he's so professional. But just everything about that, the way that he handled that weekend was just phenomenal. The pressure he had to handle. He did everything so well, and I can't believe that didn't work out for him. The team mucked it up for him. The guy that replaced him in Williams mucked up for him. It would have been one hell of a fairy tale to see that all happen. But he did an amazing job, and I'm really happy that they gave him the opportunity and not Stoffel, because it just gave him a little insight into what he is capable of. And yeah,
hopefully what the future is.
Well, yeah, hopefully. I really hope that he can get a fair crack at the whip.
And how frustrating is it for a driver to like be, you know, we all know how capable George is, but how difficult is it for a driver if you know that you can do what he did in Bahrain, in Sakhir rather, with that Mercedes, and yet he's got to be at the low end of the back of the grid with the Williams. How difficult is that for a driver?
I'm sure it's wearing a little bit thin now. Probably made worse by the fact that he had a weekend in the Mercedes. But I think he's of the caliber where people know how good he is now, even though they did before. That I think if an opportunity comes up somewhere else, then he'll be in it. You know, a lot of guys, Alonso, Mark Webber, you know, that they all started in a bottom team. Just that George has been there a little bit longer than them, so hopefully he gets a chance.
Yeah, I reckon he will. And the final question for you, I've got, and I've always wanted to ask a racing driver this. If you had the chance to go to drive a Formula 1 car, but for the worst team there is on the grid, or you could go into a championship that's below Formula 1, but that enables you to win races constantly in championships, which one would you take?
That is a hard question.
Question right there.
Yeah. I don't know. Both. I guess I think of it like from a career point of view. You know, if you look at someone like Nick de Vries, you know, he won F2, hasn't then progressed on into F1. He's a reserve driver for Mercedes, you know, but he's now making a career in Formula E. He's moved on to sports cars as well. I don't know. It's if you can impress in a back of the grid car, then I still think that that's giving you some profile to have a career. If you've just done a few races just to say you've done F1, then that's not going to really help. Might get you a few more followers on social media, but that's about it.
Yep. So, and which one would you choose personally?
It's very politically answered there.
Yeah, I would probably choose the winning of. Yeah, if it was no championship results and just going to do F1, then I wouldn't do that. But if it meant that you've had a good couple of years being at the front in championships where you've proved yourself, then hopefully you'd move on and have a long career in something else. Yeah,
I mean that was a difficult question. I know. I've always wanted to ask that question.
Great question. Great question.
Yeah. So, any more questions, boys?
I mean, that knocks any questions I've got out of the park there, really. But come back to me.
Okay, I got one. So I got two questions. Hopefully it's not difficult as Raz's. But so first of all, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And second of all, sort of follow-up question is, what do you see yourself doing after racing?
Okay. So it's a little scary to think like that, because your shelf life as a racing driver is not that long, really. I'd like to think in 5 years I would still be doing the kind of stuff I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I know that's not going to last much longer than that. So I do get asked that question a little bit, and I'm more than happy to where my career is right now. I think it suits me perfectly from the coaching point of view, the kind of cars they are, everything. It just sits in perfectly to where my life is right now. So hopefully, much more the same on the driving front. From beyond that, I think it will still be the coaching, because that's been with me since I was 17. And I think I'm good at it, and I've had some good results at the coaching side of things. So I think that is what I'll be doing. But then there's options of working more closely with management companies and race teams as such. So I'll be doing something within motorsport. Not obviously, but obviously. But yeah, something like that.
Do you have another question, Tom?
Yeah, I've got. If you could give one bit of advice to an aspiring racing driver, what would it be?
Less is more. Be smooth.
Very good. Very good.
Very short and sweet.
Are you talking about yourself as an aspiring?
No, I'm by no means an aspiring racing driver at all.
Okay, so you mean
but,
like?
But as like for for the younger ones coming up, like.
Okay. Without sounding too corny, if you want it bad enough, you'll make it happen. My dad always says that to me. He's like, I don't know how you do it. How do you just keep knocking on the door, keep trying to do this, and not get disheartened or put off the fact of the money thing. So yeah, I think I would say be determined, believe in yourself, never give up, because things happen for a reason.
The final question from me that I've got is, you've got kids now, right?
Yes.
But does it slow you down having kids?
I don't think so. I've certainly had some great performances, and probably my best performances whilst I've been a dad. I'll tell you a story. One of the most successful Pro-Am GT sports car drivers from the UK, Johnny Molan, and he said to me, what year was it? It must have been about 2010. We went to a charity karting event, and I only just really met my wife, Laurie, at the time, and he said to her, there was some joking going on in the queuing up for a burger or something. And he said, hey, don't knock it. As soon as you have kids, that's when I first got paid, when I first got kids. So when Laurie was pregnant with George, that was when I got my first factory contract. And I don't think it slowed me down. So no, it makes you think slightly differently. There's a few priorities that change, even when it comes to what drives you take. But no.
And how great do you think Kimi Räikkönen is doing it at 41?
I love Kimi. I think his personality is amazing, and I think he's done a very good job. However, I think his time's done. I'd like to see someone else come in now.
It'd be nice to see Callum Ilott in that seat if Ferrari is sort of insisting that they get a choice in what's going on at Sauber/Alpha.
Yeah, anyone that's proved themselves in the junior categories to show people that you can progress. I don't know who else Renault could have used or Alpine could have used, but I'm not a particular fan of Alonso coming back and doing all that again. Yes, he's very, very impressive, but he's had his time.
Do you think that sort of sets a bit of a poor sort of example, if you want, for the younger ones coming up? That going to, yes, Fernando's got all the experience in the world, and he's won world championships, but like what's the kind of modus operandi there? Like, are they trying to develop the car with him, or is it just the name that they're going for?
Well, Renault, or as they are Alpine, they had their junior drivers, but I don't think any of them had enough super license points to fill the seat. So there was talks of Hulk coming back or some others. I don't know. I'm sure
we would have to see that.
Yeah. But
What did you say?
So that I would have preferred to see Hulkenberg come back rather than Alonso.
You and me both, brother.
Yeah.
Cool. I've got one question to Matt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can you remember what year it was we went to Donington?
Yeah.
FIA GT.
Yeah. It was 1998.
Yeah, I think it was. I was going to say 7 or 8, but I think it was 8.
Yeah. That was cool.
So that's quite a cool story. So when we were there all those years ago for that, and I remember watching with James, our mutual friend James Wingfield.
Yeah.
And I think that was my first real experience of sports cars. Like,
yeah, same.
I think it was probably classics before that for me. But I was like, wow, I remember that Zanardi was there in the Esprit, he was doing a mega job in that. And it was a 4-hour race or 6-hour? I mean, it was 1,000K.
It was about 4 hours, yeah. It was the FIA GT, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you got Bernd Schneider there in the CLC, whatever it was, thing at the time. And he was the fastest lap on the last lap.
Right, yeah.
So if you've been talking about being not starstruck, but it's quite cool to think, I ended up racing him for about 4 years in Blancpain.
Wow, okay.
So cool. He was still a Mercedes driver all those years later.
Yeah. And I think was he partnered by Mark Webber? I think in that car, and I think the other car was.
You've got a better memory of it than me. I remember we were behind the podium, weren't we, on that? I seem to remember we were standing behind the podium.
Yeah. I think it was.
Pictures.
Yeah, it was. Mark Webber and Bernd Schneider, and the other drivers were Klaus Ludwig and Ricardo Zonta.
I was going to say Zonta must have been there, yeah.
And then Alan McNeish with somebody else. I can't remember who his teammate was.
There was 3 Mercs, were there?
Yeah, I think, they was using the Porsche. Yeah. No, that was. I think it must have been 16.
Well, I was 14.
Yeah, I think I was about 15, 16. I think. 98. Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah. It's been a while.
There you go. See, roles reversed. I'll ask you a question.
So, I would love to know, Duncan, what did your parents say when you first said to your dad and your mum, "Oh, by the way, I'm not gonna go and I'm not gonna go and go for a 9-to-5 job. I'm actually gonna go and race cars for a living."
Well, my dad was over the moon. I think he'll be the first to say he was living his life through me. He would have loved to have done what I've done, and without my dad, I wouldn't have been able to do this at all. I wouldn't be where I am without him. They sacrificed a lot for me, and my dad's parents, that they weren't happy with the fact that I was going racing and the amount of money that my mum and dad was spending on the racing. In the great scheme of things, compared to others, it was nothing. But my grandparents, who lived a very frugal life, They couldn't believe what was happening. So I think they definitely weren't that they weren't happy to think that we were going to all this effort to try and make a career out of it. But if my mum was any more laid back, she'd be lying down. And my dad, still this day, is living every second. He feels every result, every lap, everything through me. So he's very proud. I'll have a lot to thank him for.
Yeah. Any more questions, boys?
Well, that's it.
I think that's it, mate.
Yeah. Cheers, Duncan, for coming on.
Pleasure.
I hope you're gonna help me out promote this video. As I said, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm really grateful that Matt helped me organise it. So I'm very grateful to you, Matt.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
So
Thanks for Duncan for saying yes. So
thank you, and hopefully I speak to you soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep well, guys.
Keep
Yeah.
well.
Cheers, Duncan. Cheers,
Cheers,
guys.
Duncan.
Brilliant.
Bye.
take
Yeah.
care. Bye bye.
Bye.